was by bringing everyone in the community together. This was an open invitation to the community to bring health, wellness, fitness, nutrition experts from all over to showcase what they do. Because everybody in the community could use a little help, right? In one area or another. So we're all striving toward health. So our goal with the Health Revolution is to bring the community together. So hopefully by the end of the day, you'll have met lots of new friends, lots of new vendors, presenters, maybe win a door prize or two. You can see the table up here, we have a lot. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jacqueline Shoemaker. I am the owner of Winchester and Woodstock Weight Loss. I'm the presenting sponsor today. And an event like this really takes a whole community. It is very difficult to put on a big event like this, so I really want to thank everyone out there who volunteered, everyone out there who helped put on this event. I want to thank all of our lovely speakers. We have Jimmy Moore with us here today. Woo! He came in from the hurricane in South Carolina, folks, to present some of his books. He's going to be doing a book signing. Later on, he's also going to be presenting during lunch. So if you look at your program, you're going to see where he's going to be presenting. Just necessary stuff. Folks, please keep your stuff under your seat or under the table so when the wait staff come about, especially during the lunch sit-up, that they won't trip over anything. The bathrooms are out at the lobby. You take a right, and the hotel staff can direct you there. Hopefully everyone got their door prize ticket in here. We're going to start off with the door prize. Let's see here. We're going to welcome Richard's Fruit Market. If you didn't notice, he has the shirt that says, "I'm the farmer." So give it up to our local producers.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Is that too loud? How are we? All righty. I am a farmer. I'm a fourth generation farmer at our property. My great-grandparents came to the farm in 1878. My dad, the third generation, built our market, and I've continued it on myself for the last 30 years. My daughter Kayla is the fifth generation, just now came back from out west to be a full-time partner into our business. We have 42 acres of apples, 12 acres of peaches, 5 acres of vegetables. We have beef cattle. We grow your entire meal from our own soil. The little centerpieces, I picked those from our Pick Your Own Flower garden yesterday. So we complement your dinner table with the food, the flowers. We have a lot of local products there. We're about 15 miles south of here at the southern end of Frederick County on Middle Road. I met Miss Jacqueline over here, and we all agree that food grows from the ground up. And with that being said, you know, what we are kind of what we eat, right? So I myself was not happy with how I was, and I changed my eating habits, and I've lost 34 pounds in the last 3 months. So it was not easy, but I looked around at my market, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to eat what I grow, period. I'm not going to go out. You know, my wife is a great cook, and so we're all doing better. I'm, 56 years old. I'm still learning. It really sucks. It really sucks, but it's never too early to have a new beginning. So, any questions to the farmer? All right.
Well, you also are selling some beef and other things, eggs, right, too?
Oh, yeah.
Tell them where you are.
We have we raise beef cattle, so we have, it's hormone and steroid free. We sell it by the slice, burger, roast steaks. We have Rhode Island red chickens. We sell brown eggs. And so when I'm through here, I'm headed immediately back to the farm to continue my normal daily chores. And it's apple harvest season right now, so it's a deliciously raining day. Farmers never wish I know the people in Florida aren't so happy about it, but for the farming community, we love the water. It's been a crazy growing season this year. Cold in the spring, we lost all of our peaches. We lost a good percentage of our apples, but then it got hot and dry, and then we're standing there sweltering going, oh my gosh, we're being tested. So here we are in the fall. We do have some beautiful fruit. Like I said, we're on Middle Road.
West Virginia as well. And so I believe that yoga is part of this health revolution, and I love Jacqueline and what she's doing to help educate people about how we can all be really healthy and how we can work together to support each other in that health. And so that is what yoga does. Yoga is here to, part of the practice is to help everyone learn that they can relax more, and that if we learn how to relax a little bit more and shift our breathing, shift our mental awareness, shift what our body can do, then we can actually lower the cortisol levels in our body, and then we don't have to work quite as hard to take the weight off. We can learn how to start to observe ourselves and what makes our body feel good, and make smarter choices for how we engage with the world. So I think that yoga really is meant to be experienced. So I'm going to have everybody experience a little bit of yoga today. We're not going to do, no need to worry, you don't have to be wearing yoga pants or take off your shoes. You can take off your shoes.
I already
if
did.
you wish. There we go, see? If you wish to take off your shoes, take off your shoes, but if not, you can keep everything the way you are except for sitting. So I'm going to have everybody stand up. Except for the sitting one. That's it. That's all you have to change. Yeah, so Mr. Richard Pease just said that food grows from the ground, starts from the ground up. And in yoga, we believe that your health of your body starts from the ground up too. So we start really with learning how to utilize our feet in a different way. And then once we learn how to utilize our feet well, then we can utilize our whole skeleton well, and we can start to find a really strong center in our body. So what I want everyone to do just to start off with is just let your arms drop down. That's it. And then, I should time myself so I don't know. You're going to kick me out. All right, good. So now, what I want you to do is just lift your toes off of the floor and press your heels down into the mat. And see if you can feel your thighs start to work a little bit for you with your toes pulling up. And then relax and let your toes drop back down. Good. And then lift your heels up and come onto the balls of your feet. Oh, yes. It's a little more challenging, right? Then set your heels back down. Now see if you can feel a sense of both your toes, the front part of your foot and the back part of your foot equally working. I know that's, especially if you're wearing heels, that might be difficult to feel. But just start to check in with yourself. See if you can feel your whole foot working for you. Good. Then we're going to step our feet apart and get a little bit wider of a base. Good. And we're going to breathe. So make sure that you have a little bit of space here where you could stretch out your arms like this, where you're not going to hit anybody. It's a beautifully full room. So we're going to go easy with this. I want you to see how your breath can both energize you and then relax you as well. So we're going to take a deep breath. Actually, we're going to start just with a 3-part breath. And this is how it looks. So you're going to breathe in to about 1/3 of what you can breathe in with your arms straight out. If you can't see me, arms just go out. Good. And then you're going to extend your arms out and breathe in another 1/3. And then you're going to breathe in one more 1/3, arms up. And then you're going to exhale one big ha, like that. Yeah. And so it's called breath of joy. And it's supposed to be a little bit enlivening. And we're going to do it kind of fast. So it looks like this, where we go ha. Okay? All right, is everybody ready? Shake out your arms. We're all doing it together, so no one's sillier than anybody else. All right, so breathe in 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, ha! 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, ha! Again, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, ha! 2 more, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, ha! 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and ha! Good, now just close your eyes. Feel your feet in the ground again. Maybe you feel a little tingling in your arms, a little sensation that you're a little more awake than you were just a moment ago, perhaps. Good. Now step your feet back together. You can open your eyes. So in yoga, we cultivate little pauses in between things, or pauses within things that we're doing, so that you have time to start to observe your body and notice. And that's where that ability to start to notice and observe what works for you and doesn't work for you begins. And that's how yoga helps us, or one of the ways that yoga helps us. So now we're going to move our spine just a little bit so that we can also generate some energy that way. Lift your arms up over your head. Now if you have any shoulder discomfort, take your right arm and drop your right arm down alongside your body. I'll mirror everybody. Good. Good. If you're still good here, clasp your hands together and take your pointer fingers and just reach up. Now if that bothers your shoulders, drop your right arm down. Take a deep breath in and then just lean over to the right. And we're just going to take 3 breaths right there. Deep breath in. Try to push into your feet. Lengthen through your fingertip. Take another long breath in. Exhale. Close your eyes just for a minute. Or not even a minute. And now lift back up. Deep breath in. Take a break. Exhale. Let your arms drop down. Good. And now we're going to do the other side. Breathe in. Reach your arms back up. Any shoulder discomfort, drop your left arm down. Take a deep breath in. Push down into your feet. And see if you can grow longer through your fingertips. So you're really grounded, anchored into your feet, but lengthening through your arms. And now hinge to the left. Good. Beautiful, everybody. Really long extension. Breathe 1. In and breathe out. Again, breathe in. And breathe out. 1 more. Deep breath in. Good. Lift all the way back up. Let your arms drop down. Close your eyes. Just notice how you feel on your shoulders. Good. We're going to go into another little spinal work here. So step behind your chair so that your hands are just on the tips of your chair. Good. Good. Now hang your hands over to the where you would sit, to your seat part of your chair. Press your hands down into the actual seat of your chair. So take a little lean forward there. Got it. Good. So now push your hands into the chair. Really press them down in, and try to press out through your tailbone and your sits bones, like you're trying to press your butt behind you. I don't know why I still giggle when I say the word butt sometimes. Large group of people, I apologize. Middle schooler. Push your hands down, lift up through your sits bones, take 1 more deep breath in. Good, now lift your hands back up to the top of the chair and come all the way back to stand. Okay? So now we're going to do a back, so that was forward fold. We went side with our spine. We're going to twist with our spine in a minute. But first we're going to do a little bit of a back bend. So take your hands behind you now, clasp your fingers together, and just let your hands rest in the small of your back. Okay? So we want to bend from our spine and lift from our chest, and not because our arms are trying to do the work for us. So just let your elbows bend out to the sides of your body. Lift your chest up, your sternum lifts. Good. Belly button lifts in and up. Shoulder blades drop down. Good. Now if you feel good here, look up without kind of letting your head drop back. So just look up with your eyes, really safe with your head. And then if you still feel good, now drop your arms down toward the floor. Stretch down. Good. And then maybe close your eyes and take 3 breaths, just like you are. Breathe in. Breathe out. Beautiful, everybody. Really lovely. Breathe in. And out. Good. Inhale, come back up. Release your hands. Cross your arms across your chest. Hug yourself in one direction. And then open up nice and wide. And then hug yourself in the opposite direction. Good. Now go ahead and sit back down into your chair. So we have yoga. Guys, don't you love Jacqueline? Isn't she amazing?
So who's the lucky winner of More Time with Krista? So that is 314-004. 004. Who has 004? Well, there you go. And congratulations. Enjoy that. So, let's see. We have, I think, Exoskin. This is an exciting product. Happy that they make it for the military and a variety of other athletes. So I'd like Carla and Paul to introduce what they have, that beautiful exhibit out there. So,
good morning, everybody. As Jacqueline said, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
This is Paul Furman. I'm Troy. We're with Exoskin. We're based out of Frederick, Maryland. What we do is base layer apparel for any sort of activity. So it doesn't have to be like run specific, any activity. We make next to skin apparel. So right now we're producing shirts, various sizes in terms of fit. So meaning this would be loose fit. We also do form and compression as well. The owner and creator of Exoskin, Rick, has about 25, 30 years in textiles. His main customers are most of the brands that we all know and recognize, such as Nike, Asics, Adidas. Every Adidas football jersey last year had fiber that Rick's company produced. So a couple of years ago, he decided that he didn't like what he saw in the industry that he participated in terms of pushing technology to develop better products. So 4 or 5 years ago, he started with the idea of creating Exoskin with a partner in Florida. The unique thing about our company is everything that we do is manufactured in the United States. So from the yarn, which we actually...
Awesome, Scott. You're the man.
And with that, Scott, everybody.
I got so excited.
Okay. Our yarns are made in North Carolina. The knitting of the shirts is done in Florida. The dyeing is done in Pennsylvania. And our packaging is from Florida as well.
Manufactured by Law Women Set Aside Group in Florida.
Yeah. A lot of thought went into even the use of the packaging. You'll see out there our shirts and apparel are packaged in double Ziploc bag, for lack of a better term. So the bag is able to be reused as opposed to just packaging that's thrown away. You can put your electronics in it. It's waterproof, dustproof. You can store food in it, whatever you need to keep safe and clean. The other thing is the patents that we actually own on our fiber. 2 unique patents. One is for PTFE, so you want to think of Gore-Tex. It's based on PTFE, Glide Dental Floss. So what PTFE does is it reduces friction. Friction in garments creates heat. Heat creates skin abrasions, so we're able to reduce that with PTFE. Copper is the other patent that we own in our fiber. And what copper does is it's a natural antimicrobial, so that means it will kill bacteria that causes odor. So you can sweat, you can wear the garment repeatedly, which, you know, when we were prototyping, it's a weird story, but I wore a shirt, and I'm a cyclist, so I wore a shirt 7 days in a row on a ride. And I hung it up, I didn't wash it, I hung it up to dry. That same week, I worked out in a cotton t-shirt 2 or 3 times, same thing, hung it up to dry. At the end of the week, I asked my wife, I said, take a whiff of both of these. Tell me which one I wore more. Naturally, she picked the cotton. So, the copper in it will kill the bacteria. The shirt will smell like you, but it won't stink. So,
Now, what also sets us aside is, along with the PTFE, our clothing line is 3-dimensionally knitted. With that being said, with the PTFE and the 3D knit structure that we also patent, we are 80% more wicking capability than any other manufacturer. We've had multiple double-blind studies that have no affiliation with our company, and we actually put all of our data online, us versus them. Whether it's Patagonia, North Face, Under Armour, Icebreaker, all online, and we blew them all out of the water. Also, with us having less seams and the PTFE that's in our clothing line, it allows you next to skin comfort, and that's one thing that we really, really stand by. If you don't like our apparel, and if you have an issue with it not being the most comfortable base layer gear, I'll buy it back from you. No questions asked. Like our product or dislike our product. As it was already mentioned, we're actually in our 2nd year of sponsorship of Dr. Mark Cucuzzella's Team Air Force Ultra Runners, the JFK 50, the Marine Corps Marathon. The first year, it was a cold, wet, miserable day, and we actually challenged the athletes not to wear Glide body stuff, so anti-chafing. It was kind of trial by fire. They thought we were absolutely crazy. So we kind of crested the hill after the race, and there's the Air Force, and they absolutely love our gear. So hence our 2nd year of sponsorship with them. We're very proud of that. Another thing that our company stands for is building community. whether it's supporting local run teams, high school, college, to the privately owned brick and mortar building. You will not see our clothing line on Amazon. You will not see our line in Dick's Sporting Goods or REI's. We like the privately owned mom and pop shops. And we make a conscious effort to support their local runners and their local teams to drive business into their establishment.
Did a wonderful job. Sure. But that, yeah, you could talk.
All
you could
right.
advise, whatever you
What am I going to do? Well, hello everyone. It's just so awesome to be part of this. Jacqueline has been working hard diligently she cares about people. I just want to share briefly a little testimony. I was diagnosed with a kidney disease. My kidneys were completely damaged. And thank God I was able to get back on track. I was put on a bunch of medication. Prednisone was one of them. I had prednisone pounds. I gained close to 40 pounds, and that might not seem a lot, but for me that was quite a bit, and I was not feeling well, aches, pains, a bunch of just awful side effects. Jacqueline came alongside of me, kind of, she saw me progress in the illness. She saw me as I was trying to recover, and she introduced the low-carb, high-fat diet. She's like, Jamie, just try eating this. She didn't mention high-fat, Atkins diet, or anything. She's like, just try eating like this. I guarantee you, she goes, you'll start feeling better. Sure enough, because I was basically crippled. I couldn't, it would hurt to walk. I just hurt. I was in constant pain. And she came alongside, not promoting herself, just coming along as a friend, someone that cared and says, try this. And for me to be standing here and do what I do, I just ran a 5K. I've lost my prednisone pounds. Wow. I continue to heal. And I'm glad that you guys are here because this is what it's all about. It's about just, learning and people that sincerely care. And we just want to share what, this lifestyle can do for you. So, okay. And I just want to thank you. I have a little Costco treat for you, a little Costco goodie. So I just want to thank you so much for all that you do. One of my gifts is to talk. So anyway, Costco Land. I've been with Costco since they started. I'm going to be celebrating my 32nd year with Costco. So yeah, I grew up. I was 10 when I started before the child labor laws came about. So just a little bit of Costco. There's so much to Costco Land, but focusing on the health and wellness. Costco have been crowned the organic kings because of the products. And the reason that we are able to get those products is because you guys are the ones that are telling us we want more organic, we want more this. We listen to you because we know without you, there's no us. So thank you so much for being a member. So we do, if you're not a member, we have a special offer. I'm here to help you save money, so join. You guys who are members, bring your friends, and you guys get rewarded. We say thank you with a $10 Costco cash card. I have a price list of just a little bit of just a few items that we have at Costco as far as organics and low carb items. So I do have a price list out there for you. Our pharmacy, you don't have to be a Costco member to use the pharmacy. So what we want you to do is, to get healthy at Costco, but if some of us still, might need some medications, it's there. And also too, as far as supplements, probiotics, refrigerated probiotics, and some of the lists, the supplements that Jacqueline has suggested, they're not in the regular floor, but you can just go in there and say, hey, I want some keto strips, hey, I want the probiotics. So we have that available as well. So if I can help you with anything at Costco Land, feel free to come reach out to me. And also too, on the 22nd, we're doing a Costco health tour. So come in, private tour, give you a spin around Costco, show you the healthy side of Costco, prizes, foods, and more. So I welcome that. And if you are a health coach or if you have clients that you want to bring into Costco, kind of show them around, see me and I can make arrangements for that. So thank you. Thank you. I'm going to give away.
All right, so what I want to do now with you is tell you a little bit about food and what kind of choices we need to be making. As I shared with you earlier, my name's Jacqueline. I own Winchester and Woodstock Weight Loss. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I have been in healthcare since the 90s. If you could think of the department in the hospital, I've worked in that department probably. I used to work with the United Nations and the State Department to medically prepare folks to leave the country when they were doing border patrol in the Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq. Specifically since 2008, my passion was medical weight loss. And that happened because I had the opportunity finally to be in family medicine. And what that means is, as a nurse in the hospital, you give a certain set of advice. And then the patient leaves and you don't see them again. So you think, well, golly, the advice, it's what I learned in school, it certainly works. Being in family medicine gave me the opportunity to finally see patients and see them throughout a lifespan, and I was seeing patients get sicker. I was seeing patients gain more weight. I was seeing patients, their blood work got worse, their diabetes got worse, their weight got worse. And I was like, either, all my patients are lying to me and not doing anything that I say, because what I say is absolutely, right. Or then, the probability of that in my head, I was like, that certainly couldn't be true. Or there's something wrong with what we're teaching. There's something wrong, which led me in 2008 to explore what's going on, what can we do? And from that point forward, I started practicing medical weight management. We were very successful, went to Northern Virginia, practiced medical weight management in Northern Virginia, and then have brought it to Winchester for about 4 years now. And we're also in the Woodstock area for about 2 years. So we're really excited about how we've branched out. We're able to help people with their diabetes. We had a woman, and I don't know if she's in the crowd, she was on 80 units of insulin, taking regular 3 times a day. And in 3 weeks, folks, we got her off all her insulin. She'd been on it for 20 years. That's exciting. We've had folks where their triglycerides are as high as 2,000, and we get it down in a few weeks. So we're drawing blood work, we're doing a comprehensive physical exam, and we're thoroughly evaluating people using all the latest research, and some research that's been available for a very long time, which is what we're going to talk about today. So we'll see if we can advance a slide, perhaps. And it helps if you turn it on. Or we might manually advance. There we go. I want to recap, and I'm sorry that's not as well as it could be. If someone from the GW was here and able to lower that, that would be helpful. So basically some nutrition history. 150 years ago, sugar was not a staple in our diets. It wasn't available. For thousands of years, people survived as those hunter-gatherers. Only a fraction of the time has there been modern agriculture. Sweet foods to our Paleolithic ancestors was a sign that the food was safe to eat, which were only available, minimal times throughout the year. Human beings have been eating refined carbohydrates for 100 years. That's less than 1% of our existence. So just think about that a bit. So, a history of an epidemic, okay? Just to recap. Throughout history, obesity has been rare. Some argue that perhaps maybe the Egyptians were obese or had heart disease. But what do you see? You only see those beautiful hieroglyphics, right? But what do you see when you pull in an Allure magazine or the GQ magazine? We only showcase the best of the best. But they were an agricultural society. So, we're going to jump forward a little bit. 1797, Dr. John Rollo wrote Notes of a Diabetic Case, where he was showcasing that sugar and starch might be the root of disease. 1825, the physiology of taste, indicating the cause of weight was flour and starch. So you see, this isn't a new theme, folks. 1863, there was a Dr. Banting. There was another Banting later who won the Nobel Prize for insulin, but that's another fellow. So this Banting, though, he was a mortician, an undertaker, and he was 50 pounds overweight, so he went to some French friends. They gave him some advice. He wrote a big paper, and he became very, very famous for losing that 50 pounds and writing this big paper. So many countries say that they're Banting. Like they say that they're doing Atkins, they're Banting. And Banting occurs in South Africa. Can you help me with that? Did the clicker here? So the banting occurs in South Africa, the United Kingdom. Even in South Africa, they have whole aisles down the grocery store that are banting aisles. There's several books on it. There's a whole, sort of following the banting lifestyle. So there's, again, something to be said about this. And actually, this was a health standard. This was taught in medical school, in nursing school, pharmacy school. So from the 1920s to the 1950s, this was standard medical advice for helping with diabetes. So we're gonna take pants if that's not acting right. So what happened? What happened in the 1950s? It was the end of World War II, and then there was a sudden rise in heart disease. So, what on earth could be the blame of this heart disease? Could it have anything to do with possibly the tobacco industry or the processed food industry? Well, we certainly can't blame those folks because they're certainly lining the pockets of certain people who are making these guidelines. So from that point forward, they decided to demonize fat. Fat became the enemy because you got more calories from fat. So the nutritional guidelines then changed, and all of it was removed from textbooks. So just to understand nutrition a little bit, and Kate, is she still in the room? If she's able to lower that, that would be helpful. But macronutrients, your protein is 4 kilocalories per gram. Or some people say, 4 per gram. Or carbohydrates 4, and then again you can see fat is at 9. So see how that has a higher number, so people just automatically pick that, fat's bad for you. There was never a study or never a trial. It was just simply, and perhaps sunscreen. Just simply a bunch of folks got together and decided what was bad for us. So the fear of fat. To recap a little bit, there's this fellow called Ancel Keys. There were 22 countries to get his information from, and he became very famous. And I don't know who have read or researched about Ancel Keys, but the interesting thing about this fella is that he spent 3 months living in a dark cave studying bat poop. That's an interesting guy, And he's the founder and the foundation of this fat requirement in our country. So of these 22 countries, he cherry-picked the data. He picked 6 of the countries that would fit his recommendation that fat was bad for you. There were no randomized controlled trials, Darcy Keys. There was so much criticism behind this, even the American Medical Association was against it. But it became standard, nonetheless. So in 1977, Nixon was running against McGovern. There was a U.S. Senate committee. They met and deliberated for 8 hours. 8 hours. What happened in that 8 hours was the creation of the food pyramid. 1980s, the food pyramid was recommended to present day My Healthy Plate. Do you know obesity rates have tripled from then till present day? So who has that really helped? When politicians sat in a room for 8 hours and picked a way to eat. So the fat consumption definitely changed in the American diet. So in 2000, according to the USDA, each individual consumed over 150 pounds of sugar that year. 150 pounds of sugar a year? You've picked up one of those 5-pound sacks before, folks. That's heavy. That's a lot. What is that doing to us? What's it do to your teeth? Half of it comes from corn syrup. 38% of the average person's diet is made up of sugar in various forms, and that means more than a third of everyone eats essentially glucose. We're getting situated. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. And again, sugar being the #1 driver of diabetes. So, 1987, that just kind of shows a little bit of the obesity rates in the country. And you can see how they really have tripled. It's kind of scary. So those government guidelines that have been created really aren't helping anybody. Statistics show us that. So this is a favorite slide of mine. Dr. Eric Westman lectures all over the country, and he shares this slide quite frequently. And many of you may or may not realize that your body only has about 1.5 teaspoons of sugar at any given time in your bloodstream. 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. That's not a whole lot. You know, it's just a wee bit. And a chronic elevation of a half a teaspoon, puts you at risk for diabetes. So let's just learn a little bit about insulin. When insulin is secreted, a chronic elevation of fat accumulates in the fat tissue. And the weight again. Let me adjust that here. We'll take a pause. That's all right. We can work through it without it. It's all right. Yeah, I know. Does the slide not, does it not come down? I guess that's it. Okay, well, if anybody really wants a copy of the slides, I'm happy to email them to you. We have some cards up on the table, and so you can come up and get a card and we can showcase that. Unless you can get it to fit. I'm trying. Okay. Okay. So that should be the most of it, yeah. So when insulin levels drop, fat escapes. This is a key piece here, folks. So yeah, right there. When insulin levels drop, fat will escape. So this is key. There are so many factors of weight. People want to blame weight on gluttony and sloth. They want to blame it all on you. You're just lazy and we just don't move and you just eat too much. And that's not fair. That's not true. It has a lot to do with our hormones, our biogenetic makeup, our psychological behaviors. There are many, many, many different factors, but this is a metabolic disease. It's a metabolic disease, a disruption of our endocrine system, and we can help manipulate one key hormone, and that's insulin. So if we can find a way to lower the insulin level, fat will escape from your fat tissue, and there is weight loss. Yay! Right? We secrete insulin in response to the carbohydrates in the foods that we take in. So, insulin, for all intents and purposes, it's fickle. It makes you tired, it makes you hungry, it makes your belly growl, because every time you eat, right, your blood sugar goes up, insulin comes out, lowers the blood sugar. What happens when your blood sugar's low? We get hangry, right? You're tired, you're hungry, you're angry. And so we continue. So wow, you remedy that and you eat. Then you're up and down and up and down and up and down on that roller coaster of life. So yes, we're hungry all the time. We're tired all the time. Oh, I'm just getting old. No, your insulin's too high, making you hungry, making your body store. Let's turn it off. So insulin lowers all that blood sugar. And what happens to the extra insulin? It goes and it takes that sugar and it fills all the cells. But the American diet, the cells are full, the cells are saturated. So where does the insulin go? Insulin always, or where does the insulin take the sugar? It always has to have a backup plan. So what does it do? It takes that sugar to the liver to make cholesterol, fatty liver, raise your blood cholesterol stored on your waist, your hips, your thighs. Again, insulin's not our friend. Do not invite him over. Okay, we're going to teach you how to keep him away. We're clear on that? So what triggers it? What makes insulin come out? We're going to avoid this. Refined carbohydrates, grains. Carbohydrates will block your satiety. You will constantly be hungry if you're eating carbs. You will never be full. Frequent snacks and meals, cortisol. Cortisol when you're stressed. Who's stressed? I'm sure it's just rainbows and sunshine and unicorns for us all out here, right? No one has any stress, right? Hopefully, Krista helped alleviate some of that for most of us out here today with that morning rise and shine yoga. And there's some oils in the back there. I'm sure that'll help put that on some of us. But a lot of us, Americans, are stressed. We deal with stress, and all that constant stress says insulin, 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 insulin. And we're getting it from every angle, and we're storing. Then there's this lack of sleep. Because of all this stress, many people struggle sleeping. And not sleeping means you're storing fat. Get some rest. Artificial sugars. Be mindful, folks. Yes, it's a helpful transition to get you off of sugar, but you have to know that artificial sugars do play a role for some people in triggering insulin and causing weight gain. So if done in excess, it can be problematic. I don't believe there's sugar in the room today, so I apologize. You can really talk to your server if you really are dying for some. But try that butter and coconut oil in your coffee. It's really yummy. And then, of course, protein. Many people don't realize this, but protein, if consumed in excess, is transformed on a metabolic level and a microscopic level into sugar, which secretes insulin. So be mindful. This is not a high protein recommendation. So, how do you avoid something that has 60 names? Look at all those. Look at all, and the list goes on and on and on. There are so many different names for it. It's hidden in everything, folks. You're like, well, I don't need sweets. Well, it's hidden in something. It's hidden in something. So the food industry's deception, Gary Taubes, Why We Get Fat. He's great. There's a lot of my favorite books are here on the table there, so I encourage you guys to all check out some of my favorite books. I have some of my Dr. Westman books out on loan, so unfortunately they're not here right at the moment. But Jimmy Moore's written some books with Dr. Westman. They talk about the keto clarity. I encourage you all to check this book out, meet with Jimmy later, sign the books, pictures with him. There's also a photo booth outside, so or a little selfie station. So, but the ketogenic cookbook is here as well. So getting unhooked on food is often harder than getting unhooked on narcotics. Because some say that sugar can be more addictive than cocaine. And you can't just stop eating food, right? Sugar makes us happy. It releases that dopamine. That's why that warm, Krispy Kreme donut feels so good. Okay? Doesn't mean that it's good. So, triggers, it's times of stress. Once again, we're not stressed, right? Help with coping, looking for an escape, trying to change the way we feel. And if you want to know a little bit more about sugar and sugar addiction, Karen Thompson wrote a book called The Sugar-Free in 8 Weeks. So I highly encourage you all to check out her book as well. She's very knowledgeable on sugar and sugar addiction. She's actually coming to the U.S. to start some clinics. She's very powerful with what she shares. So, hijacked. Our brain gets hijacked by all these sugars. So repeated exposure to these substances and experience has the power to physically alter our brain. Doesn't matter how much willpower, you're going to want it. That neural structure and chemistry begins to change. These neurological toxic fixes can quickly exhaust and wipe out half of your brain's dopamine receptors, which in turn leads you to an increased appetite. You're hungry all the time. Your brain is hijacked by sugar. Sugar versus cocaine, and it is so sad. I don't know if you can see. I'll have to look that. This is your brain. A normal brain, one on cocaine, and one that's obese. Sugar intake eventually blunts your dopamine release, just like cocaine. Okay? Sugars act on those same neurotransmitters, so you have to be careful. So you have a population in constant state of withdrawal, craving, and relapse. This affects a lot of us, folks. It affects a lot of us. And we're going to talk about some ways to try and overcome some of this. So what should we eat, right? How do we help some of these things that we deal with? My recommendation, along with much of this community, and there's lots of research to support this, is that 70% of your day be fat. 25% protein, 5% carbs. And before you get too scary, this is the composition of breast milk. This is what babies that are exclusively breastfed are ketogenic. I breastfed my baby, and when I had my third baby, I was 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. She's now 4, so I breastfed her. I put her on the plan when she started eating food. My whole family lives this lifestyle. It's for everyone. And I was able to lose the weight in a brisk amount of time. This is a lifestyle that is easy and sustainable. Specific foods. You can be abundant with oils and dressings and fats and avocados and olives. Meat and poultry and fish, you want to eat those to, serving with each meal. Eggs are really unlimited. Dairy, we want to be mindful and limit to about 4 ounces a day, not in excess because there is lactose in it, which is sugar. Stick more with your milk fats. And actually, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no milk for children at all. They recommend exclusively breastfeeding and transitioning to water. So you really don't need it. You think about this, how many species cross species and suckle from another animal? Doesn't happen. How many species suckle into adulthood? Doesn't happen. Whole countries survive completely without it. So nuts, of course, would be sparingly, because they have a little bit of everything. They have fat, they have carb, they have protein, they've got it all. So what a great thing. So be mindful. Vegetables and salads. I always say, a couple of fistfuls of salad. Green leafy vegetables are really great for you. About a cup of vegetables for dinner. Fruit sparingly. So some would maybe say a typical day could be a couple of eggs for breakfast, or a bulletproof coffee, like they do in many European countries. They just have a fatty coffee. And then, lunch, maybe grilled chicken and a salad, and dinner, some sort of meat and a vegetable. When you conceptually say it like that, it's not that scary, folks. It's not that different. We're just eliminating a lot of the man-made foods, packaged foods. So, to showcase one of our fellas, his triglycerides, I don't even know if you can see it, was at 2,000. In 2011, it was well over 500, and he worked and worked and worked and worked, and it kept rising until it was at 2,000. Ate his oatmeal and his Cheerios, and by 2014, he was on 3 cholesterol medicines. And it kept getting worse. It was at 2,000. But he was eating his oatmeal and his Cheerios and doing everything he told him, never eating red meat, never eating butter, and all that good stuff. And it kept getting worse. And so guess what the doctor said? It's just genetic. There's nothing we can do. So his wife panicked because at this point he's ready for pancreatitis. It's so high. So his wife brings him in to me when his triglycerides are at 2,000. And this again is a hard slide to read in this light. But in 3 weeks we lowered it to 167, folks. He's now 2016. He's off all his medication. And he was a fellow that just had 10 or 15 extra pounds to lose. So he didn't have a significant weight issue. It's not always about weight, folks. It's about your health from the inside out. We're helping with diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, digestive issues. The Chronic Pain Clinic is sending us pain patients now because we can help with inflammation. Because a large part of what we do as well is working on the microbiome and fixing the intestinal microbiota. Because we do live in a country where we have a lot of antibiotics, a lot of steroids, a lot of chlorinated bleach water. So what does that do to your intestinal microbiome? If that tap water, I hope you don't have tap water, I don't know, can kill a goldfish, be mindful, be mindful. So some of our case presentations, this lovely lady was postmenopausal. As you can see, she had some bags under her eyes. She was feeling awful. How she looked is how she felt. And then again, in 4 months, she was able to lose 47 pounds. Postmenopausal. Her skin changed. The bags went away. She had a zest for life that she didn't have before. And she's helped start our support group, which many of you are in. It is private and only open to some of our patients. Unfortunately, not everyone takes advantage of it, but it is a great little group. So she helped start that. Another gal, I don't want to know if she wants me to point her out or not today, but she's done an amazing job. She's down nearly 70 pounds. She's done fabulous, and she's now baking at keto items at a local bakery. It's very great. We have another gal, she didn't want her picture taken, but she lost over 100 pounds in 9 months, folks. In her 40s. In her 40s. So many people want to be private and anonymous in their journey, and that's okay. Life is a journey. Everyone takes their steps at a different pace, to the beat of a different drummer, and that's okay. We all need to be there to support one another, encourage one another, that there is a path to health, and hopefully through the end of this conference, you'll find that there are lots of resources in the room to reach out and find what best path suits you to reach your goal of health. So, this is a fun thing that we do on the side. It is one of our grand prizes today. There is no excuse for eating clean and being wonderfully fit. If you'd like to be that, you can exercise and do all those wonderful things. But we decided to help some folks out that want a boost for a wedding, a birthday party, a class reunion, we do have a laser that will help take up to 4 inches off your waist, hips, and thighs. And it will also help eliminate cellulite. So while you're continuing in your health journey, we do have a fun little treatment to help you move along. But still, there's no magic cure for eating clean and doing the things you need to be doing. So that concludes the presentation. Wonderful. So while we're waiting for them, we'll do another door prize. Has anyone ever heard of Beauty Counter? Beauty Counter, woo! Katie, do you want to give a little presentation about Beauty Counter and what you do? You can tell them up here. They have amazing products that do not use anything on the FDA banned list. Okay? I will bring it apart. Is that Nikki, right? Good. You ladies come up here, share about that, and then here's the prize winner.
So the main thing with Beauty Counter is we like to look at ourselves as a movement. We are a mission-based company that is actually for regulation of the beauty industry because the FDA has done nothing since 1938 as far as regulating anything that you put on your skin, your shampoo, your lotions, your makeups, your baby washes for your children. There are 11 banned ingredients in the US. Beauty Counter has banned over 1,500. So we are well above what the norm is. But people don't know about us. We're about 3 years old, based out of Santa Monica. We are a direct retail company, so we are through consultants or our website. We are not going to be on the shelves of a store. Right now we are doing a limited time partnership with Target, but it's only for 9 weeks. But we want to tell our story, we want to share, we'll educate them because people don't know that what they're using is not safe. They're putting on things that have formaldehyde and tar oil and preservatives that are causing all of these internal issues, reproductive toxicity, cancer, learning disabilities, birth defects, hormone disruption, and people don't know. So we kind of are educators about what there is out there. So we have a booth out there, we've got all the products, you can come sample them, feel them, smell them, look at everything, but it's just nice knowing we do the homework for you all because we've kind of checked everything out beforehand.
And you can check out our member list as well, which gives you information about what these ingredients are. A lot of them are ingredients we could never even pronounce. We have no idea what these things are, so it will list it out for us. It will tell you what it is and why it's bad for you, and help you make better choices for yourself. We also have products for kids and for babies, so it's for the whole entire family.
And there's more coming.
List is on the back of your cards now too.
Yes, the Never List is on the back of our business card. So you can actually take the Never List on our business card and it'll give you all of them. So when you go to read an ingredient level, you can look and say, okay, that's on there, I don't use it. And I'm very, now like my husband laughs, I'm like, wait, you can't have that, you can't use that anymore. I took a shave away, I took everything away. It's like, what do I do now? I'm like, I'll get you safe stuff. So, and
All right, so Shenandoah Tumblers, do you want to come on up and tumble? And tell us about you. This is Chris Kinzinger, Shenandoah Tumblers. And it looks like they're going to provide a demo for us. Well, while they're setting up, Dazzling Divas, do you want to come share a little bit too? Or you want to
Come down
that?
with me.
Yeah, you come on down.
Together.
We're doing it together. We'll share together.
And I want to thank you, Jacqueline, for allowing me to be part of this. You know, I wondered how I was going to kind of fit in this.
Yeah, it's
thing
all
today.
about having fun.
And my biggest thing was youth fitness. Of course, I'm an advocate of the gymnastics because that's what I do, that's what I teach. But I'm a huge advocate of just youth fitness in general, whatever it may be. Riding bikes, playing basketball, football, you know, whatever that may be, cheerleading. Let's go down to that end. So for me, youth fitness is very, very important because I think it creates a lifestyle that we're all looking for now. And sometimes, you know, we're at our stage of our lives right now where we might be just introducing that because it really wasn't as popular as it is now, and we really, you know, understand the benefits of it. So we're just going to show you a few things here that we do on a daily basis at gymnastics, and helps build our strength, our flexibility, and hopefully will bring us to be strong adults later in life. So let's see. This is Mary, Megan, and Avery. And Mary, can you start us out? We're going to start with some basic things that we do on our gym, and we build build ourselves up. This is our competitive team. They come 4 days a week, 4.5 hours at a time, so it's sort of a part-time job for them. So Mary, let's go ahead and start with some forward rolls. Might only fit 1 or 2 things on here. They're used to a spring floor. Go ahead, Megan. Start with the basics. Work our way up. Handstand forward roll. So just kind of build from that forward roll and add a handstand to it. That might be a little hard for them. And we go into a cartwheel. And then we work into something called a round off. We're not going to rebound here because it's a little hard floor for them. Nice. So we'll slow some things down with some front walkovers. And you'll see a lot of flexibility is involved here, strength, abdominals to be able to pull themselves up. They do about 45 minutes of conditioning a day along with their 3 hours of gymnastics. Back walkovers. So they're used to doing lots of pull-ups on the bars, leg lifts, V-ups, crunches. Nice job. So there's sort of the slower things that we do now. We'll speed things up a little bit and we'll do a standing back handspring. Some of them may step out, some of them may land feet together. Some may do a little combination. Just make sure you have enough room. You want to hit that table behind you. These girls do a lot of this stuff on a balance beam too. Mary, let's do a standing back top. So we start doing aerial things with no hands. Nice job. Mary does do that on a beam. How about a side aerial for you? Do you want more room? You want to come to the side? So side aerial then is a cartwheel without hands. Nice job. And then we're gonna do a couple strength moves that we also do too. Would you like to start with a press handstand from the floor? Are we gonna do it that way? I'll kind of stay behind her just so she doesn't tip and fall. She doesn't really need my help. I'm gonna kind of stop her here. You can see the flexibility there and the strength. Are you want to do a standing one? Sure. And a lot of times we just spend some time in handstands and we'll hold them 30 seconds, a minute, just building up that shoulder strength. Should probably stay here as long as I would want her to. Just have to remember to breathe. Nice job. Calm down. Megan, how about you demonstrate? Let's do a standing one or a sitting one? Press. Let's do it. So they don't really need my help, but I don't want them to fall here. Nice job. A little bit of what we do on a day-to-day basis, like I said, with strength and conditioning and things like that. They're used to pumping out push-ups. Ladies, can you give me a round of 10 push-ups? And then maybe take it into a plank, and we'll stay into that plank then until I'm done talking. Until I get tired. Yeah, they're missing their workouts. We got to make sure. We'll just take it to a plank and hold. Nice job. This is what we do on a day-to-day basis. Dazzling Divas is also sharing this spotlight with me right now, and I'm part of that organization as well. So I teach kids sort of during the evening, and as an adult, I want to still keep myself in shape. So I have joined the Dazzling Diva team, and I also do the pole fitness several times a week, which I absolutely love. I'm going to let you ladies talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we couldn't get our pole in here, so of course I'm sure all of y'all have seen it out there in the corner. Feel free to stop by, chat. We'll be doing demos all day long. Jennifer's been on it pretty much all morning. And like Chris said, we are very fortunate to have her as a part of our staff also. Because not only pole fitness, we try to incorporate all kind of stuff. As you see these little ladies down there doing, our workouts are an hour. They include pole, they include floor, they include abs. It's a full body workout. We encourage people of all ages, sizes to come in and join us and check us out.
We like to think of ourselves, we're categorized as an alternative fitness. You may not think of pole being as a fitness type of activity, but it most definitely is. It's the traditional gym, which is nothing wrong with the traditional gym. It's not always for everyone, but there's things you can do that's not a treadmill, weights that keeps you in shape, keeps your body in shape, and that's also a lot of fun. So it's for everybody, even though you might not think so at first. It's for everybody, every age. We have all ages, shapes into our studio, and it's a really good form of fitness and just a little bit out of the norm, and most people actually love it. So
I just want to add, just as they say, for all ages and sizes and shapes, don't feel you have to be in the top shape to try that. We're just like any other exercise place. That's why you come to us, is to get in shape. So it doesn't matter what your strength level is. We are going to build you from the very basic stuff and take you from the things that you're seeing out there. So don't shy away from it. It's $5 for your first class. You're not out anything. And it may just change your life, and you may have an addict on you before you know it. So come out and see us if you have any questions.
You ladies, did you bring it?
We did.
Thank you. So get the whole family out and having some fun. So I think what we'll do now is Brian James. I think you should give an introduction to yourself and share all the wonderful things that you've done in your past and what's brought you here to talk about ketones. That's like the fourth macronutrient we need to talk about, right?
Yes.
Ultimate fuel for the brain. So Brian, please, it wasn't a very good job introducing you. Please share us a little bit about your history and why you're doing this.
Awesome. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, so I don't need, it's hard for me to stay in one place, all right? So I actually came here the whole way from Alaska to be with y'all here today. And you don't want me tumbling because I will go out that window. Now I don't mind trying the pole dancing if you think the pole will hold me. Mix up my exercise routine. But so my background is I actually grew up in central Pennsylvania, so not too far away from here, and had an athletic background. Joined the military, so I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and then went into became very passionate about health and fitness. And some of the things that you're going to learn here today, especially from Mr. Jimmy Moore, is an ultimate lifestyle. So Jacqueline also talked about that, and it's very counter to what you're used to, right? When somebody would tell me you need to eat high fat, I would be like, you're crazy. You're trying to kill me, right? Who has fat phobia? Okay, one person, a couple people willing to admit it, okay? So for me, here's the thing. After you learn all this today, it's really important that you try to avoid people like me, or at least people like I used to be. I was a personal trainer and nutrition coach. I've been in the health and fitness industry for almost 10 years. I was a competitive bodybuilder as well. And I was the person that would tell you that if you wanted to be healthy, if you wanted to look good and feel good, you needed to eat 5 and 6 meals a day. You needed to become a professional eater. Has anyone done that in the sake of trying to get healthy? And here's the thing. While I may have looked sometimes the way I wanted to, I felt awful. I was always tired. My hormones were all over the place. And when you came to me and you told me that you were going to do a low-carb diet or you were going to do a ketogenic diet, I would tell you that's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. And that was a lot of ego and a lot of ignorance speaking. Because here's the thing, has anyone ever tried to eat those? I kind of saw a couple hands come up. Try to eat 5 and 6 meals a day? How about try to prepare 5 and 6 meals a day? How about try to budget for 5 and 6 meals a day? You're going to have to do a lot of Costco shopping, okay? For sure. So I was actually introduced to this lifestyle a little differently because for me, I was too hard-headed. It would have been really hard to try to get me to change my nutritional lifestyle from being a glucose burner to now becoming a ketone burner. I didn't even understand what ketones were, even though in my life I had experienced ketosis at least 3 different times. I just didn't know what it was. One time when I fasted, another time when I was about 2 weeks out from my first bodybuilding show, and I felt great. I just didn't understand what it was, and I didn't understand how to get there. To exogenous ketones. So what are exogenous ketones? Let me back up first. This all actually started, research on actual ketogenic dieting for clinical applications started at Johns Hopkins University to treat children that were suffering from epileptic seizures, and there's still a section of Johns Hopkins dedicated strictly to that. So you've got a lot of different researchers in this space, gentlemen like Dr. Dom D'Agostino, who we really work off a lot of his research, who in the University of South Florida started to try to replicate that state of ketosis through an exogenous source, an outside source. And that research all started with the Office of Navy Research. So a lot of that with the SEAL teams. Anyone know any Navy SEALs? Yeah? Okay. Pretty tough individuals, would you agree? Yeah. Fit individuals? Yeah. Only second to Marines. Okay? All right? Oh, come on. All right? And you had these individuals that were diving, so Navy SEAL divers, they would experience oxygen toxicity when they were diving, therefore experiencing epileptic seizures. So the goal was to try to use an exogenous ketone to be able to treat that, and it was able to be done successfully. So what we've basically done is we've replicated a bioidentical ketone to the same type of ketones that your body would produce through either number one, fasting, or number two, altering your lifestyle to more of a high-fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate diet. So when your body switches fuel sources from converting carbs and sugar to using fat for energy, you feel differently. Your brain operates very differently. Your body operates very differently. And for me, it was very selfish because I wanted to gain muscle or maintain muscle, but also lose fat. Has anyone tried to do that? How's it working for you? Every time you gain some muscle, what typically accompanies it? Fat, right? And then we try this back and forth, and it'll drive you crazy. It drove me crazy for a very, very long time. And I was introduced to this technology through a very good friend of mine that said, hey, what if there's a technology that you could literally ingest a therapeutic ketone, you'd be able to test through breath, blood, or urine that it was actually being absorbed on a cellular level in your body, and it would allow you to literally energy, fat loss, and focus. I said, I don't think that exists. I said, I don't believe in any magic, anything. I think you can accomplish everything you need to through nutrition, which I still do believe. However, when I experienced exogenous ketones for the first time, it was like those times that I went through a more of a dietary application, and I felt amazing. It was like a light switch turned on. My energy was through the roof, and here's the greatest thing. It wasn't relying on insulin, nor was it a stimulant. Because I think we all know when we eat carbs and sugar, we get real, right? Our energy goes through the roof for a very short period of time, and then we crash. And then we artificially bring up that energy with what? Stimulants, right? Or more sugar. So coffee or energy drinks or all these things that are wreaking havoc on your body. So for me, that was my introduction, and I said, and the first person that I talked to said, listen, you got to read this book by a man named Jimmy Moore, the book Keto Clarity. And yes, absolutely. And you're going to get a chance to hear from Jimmy today, but the first 3 chapters of that book, and I didn't know Jimmy, I just said there was a book, Keto Clarity. The first 3 chapters gave me everything that I needed to 100% prove and disprove many of the things that I'd been teaching people and that I was applying in my own life. So for us, as we started to develop this product, we didn't have it. We tried it, incredible result, and then we didn't have it anymore. So I had to make a decision, do I want to start this lifestyle? And moving into a ketogenic lifestyle was tough. It was really tough. But what this allowed is our product allowed me to create a bridge to that lifestyle. And it was through an exogenous ketone that I started more of the low carb or the ketogenic lifestyle, and I haven't been back since. It's now been almost 2 years. And if you've ever experienced better, it's really hard to go back, right? It's like you know something's great, and now you're not experiencing it anymore. It's kind of like, my first ever vehicle, which was like used and very old and barely stayed together, and then my first time driving in a Mercedes-Benz. When you get back in that old used car that's falling apart and you got to go like this, it's like you know there's better out there, right? So that was my experience to it. And here's the thing. We understand that you've spent your hard-earned money on gimmick nutritional products that I know for a fact don't work, because my supplement drawer was the biggest drawer in my home. There was a lot of supplements. And for me, I could never prove that they were actually working. It was always, hey, listen, this could add 5 years to your life. And I'm like, well, we'll see that at the end of my life, right? I need to know something's working right now. So we really focus on the customer experience. That's what we want you to have. That's why we typically recommend that you do a 5 or a 10-day experience before you commit to doing the whole 30 days. And that's because we want you to have a real, true, authentic experience. And we will prove to you, hence the name of our company, Prove It, that this product will absolutely work. You will feel it work. You will notice a very noticeable difference. And that's what we do. So with that, if you have any questions, we have a booth out front. And we'd love to give you some different samples and things to taste. I know many of you have already started to taste them. How's the feedback? Good? Okay. Awesome. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, you want to draw a name
Sure.
for we have a 5-day experience. See what happens in 5 days of ketones. So there's some chocolate, the Maui Punch, and the orange.
Now, Jen, you were pretty skeptical of this product at the beginning, right?
I was. I didn't know about it, but you know, I've come
She
to
grilled me pretty hard. I mean, it was.
I'm a believer.
She really looks out for her patients. So. Yeah.
But and once I started thinking about it, and I had the opportunity to hear you speak, can you not drink a Coca-Cola and raise your blood sugar? Why not drink some ketones and raise your blood ketone level, and then you can actually measure it? And that was, I think, a selling point when you're able, there's various tests out there from breath to urine, and you can take, and see, for me, I've been doing this a long time, my weight's been very stable, so if I check, I'm maybe a very light pink, or I'm a very lower state of ketosis because that's just where my body sits. But I tried this product, and I was dark purple on the urine strip in an hour. And in 5 days for me, I lost 5 pounds. So I'm not promising that for everybody, but for someone where their weight's been really the same for a long time, I was so impressed. And I was like, wow, I've got to get some more of this. I love this stuff. So.
And make sure you get a 5-day experience pack out here. I'll make sure you get this and watch drinkyoursample.com. Because one of the things we want you to understand is this is not a weight loss product. Okay? Fat loss is very different than weight loss. Body recomposition is very different. Men, we can fluctuate up to 13 pounds in a day based on water retention and digestion. Ladies, up to 9 pounds a day. So get rid of that dang scale, okay? It's awful. Psychologically, it's gonna not be good. Take your measurements, and we can prove to you that how you feel and your body composition, that you can get the results that you're looking
And
for.
with that said, we have a machine over here with us today. It is a body composition analysis. If you want to know what percent of you is body fat, muscle, water, organ, this machine, you step on it, it's going to send a little electricity through us, so let us know if you have a pacemaker. But you won't feel it. And then it gives you a lovely printout of all that information. So if you're just dying to know your numbers, step on this body composition analysis machine. So the lucky winner.
All right, so it's probably.
So thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming all the way from Alaska. Mixed Fit was hung up in the hurricane. Poor fellas, gals and girls all alike. So we now have Hit Like a Girl. Are they in the room? Hit Like a Girl? All right. Hit Like a Girl. I want you to tell us all about Hit Like a Girl and what you guys have to offer. There. Thank you. Thanks.
I'll try not to ramble too much because I didn't know I was speaking just a little while ago.
A little hurricane.
But I have some notes. My name is Zara, and I'm from Hit Like a Girl. My background is in personal training, and I actually have an undergraduate degree in biology. So I really like to take a very science-based approach to health and fitness. And my company, Hit Like a Girl, has been in Winchester for just about a year. We teach women's fitness classes, group exercise. We don't do personal training. Nutrition is outside my scope of practice, so we are partnered with Stacey Haga, who's a registered dietitian, and she's going to speak in just a few minutes as well about what she does for us. But we really focus on the fitness. And what sets us apart is that we do group fitness classes. It's all women, and you can bring your children. So what we do is we remove that barrier for our women who maybe don't want to leave them in a child care, or don't want to pay the extra money for a child care, or their child cries every time they try to separate from them, and who really don't enjoy working out at home alone, or who just won't do it, right? Like every time I try to work out at home alone, I get down on the floor to do push-ups, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this rug needs to be vacuumed, or I'll hear the laundry timer buzz, and let me just switch that over real quick. I'll run up the stairs, and then I'll run back down, and I'll pick it up, or someone needs something. So for me, I have to leave the house, and I have to have a designated time to work out. And I'm a personal trainer. I've been in fitness. I love to exercise. I had a gym in my basement, and I almost never used it. So really carving out that time where you can focus on yourself, but you can also have your children there is really important. And the other thing that I love about our group is that the children are there, and they're watching, and they're seeing what their moms are doing, and you're setting a really great example for your kids. So we teach classes, we're 6 days a week up at Snowden Bridge, and all we use are your own body weight resistance bands and some very light dumbbells. We try to keep it really fun. We play a lot of games. We'll do freeze tag and scavenger hunts and all kinds of fun things to try and keep it fun. So a lot of times you don't even realize you're working out. And you get the accountability of a group. So in a group, especially for women, I mean, everyone needs accountability, but for women, that social aspect is really important. I know for myself, I started out as a very sedentary, overweight, sugar-addicted individual, and when I lost quite a significant amount of weight before I got into the fitness industry, what kept me going was being a member of a team and joining group programs and teams. And that social aspect is really important, in particular for women, getting you to show up to your workout. So when someone doesn't come to one of our classes, their friends call them out. They're like, hey, where were you? How come you haven't been here in a while? They couldn't do my job for me. So the name of our company, Hit Like a Girl, what that means is it's HIIT. So high intensity interval training is what the core of our program is. And high intensity interval training sounds scary to a lot of people, but high intensity interval training, or HIIT, is really for everyone. So in my personal training career, I've used HIIT protocol with clients who are in their 80s. HIIT is a way of exercising that you can apply to anything. It's short periods of intense exercise followed by rest, and you just do that over and over. It's a really efficient way to work out. It's a really effective way to boost your metabolism. And the great thing about HIIT training is that it raises your metabolism, and then it keeps it up there. So you get this, it's called the afterburn effect. So after a HIIT workout, your body is burning additional calories. After you go home, you take a shower, you eat lunch, you're sitting on the couch, you're sleeping overnight, your metabolism is at a higher level and it stays up there. So you've got the calories you burn during a workout, but you also burn a whole bunch of extra calories and you raise your metabolism for, some studies say, up to 48 hours after that workout is finished. So it's really efficient. It's also shorter. So a lot of times a HIIT workout is only 30 minutes or 45 minutes and you're done. So you don't need to go to the gym and spend, 45 minutes or an hour on cardio and then be like, okay, just 45 more minutes in the strength training area and then I'm done. We get it done all at once in a HIIT workout. It's strength, it's cardio, all in one session. So for example, if you wanted to apply a HIIT protocol to a walk, maybe you'd set a timer on your watch or on your phone, and you could ramp up the speed of your walking for 20 seconds or a minute. And then you would take an active recovery, that would be your next interval, where you'd let your heart rate come back down just a little bit, and then you'd spike it up again. So it's that peaks and valleys of intensity in your workout, that's interval training. And high intensity doesn't have to mean high impact. So like I said, it can be walking, it can be gentle strength training, it can be bicep curls, it can be push-ups, it can be planks where you hold a plank and then you drop it down and you rest and you come back up into a plank. So it's a protocol, high intensity interval training that you can apply to whatever your preferred mode of exercise is. Walking, running, cycling, strength training, and it's really hard, you know. High intensity interval training or HIIT training is kind of the rage. It's everywhere, but it's here to stay. And the reason I first learned about it and got into it was because I was a mom and I was crunched for time, and I needed to get in and out of the gym, and you know I couldn't spend an hour and a half or 2 hours there like I could in my 20s. Those days were over, and I needed something that was really quick and efficient. It's also accessible to all fitness levels. So if you are, we have pregnant women who work out with us, and we modify certain exercises for them, and we just make sure that they don't get beyond the point where you know they can't speak in short sentences and they're not overheating. But we have pregnant women, we have grandparents that work out with us, grandmothers. But it's really a mode of exercise that's open to anyone. You can apply it to anything. There are all kinds of free interval timers that you can download and apps and for your phone. You can set them up on your watch. So if you're not familiar with HIIT training, check it out. If you have questions about the HIIT protocol or our HIIT Like a Girl program specifically, and we have a table out in the lobby. I'm going to turn it over to Stacy Haga, our registered dietitian, and we partnered with her about 6 months ago because we felt like we were missing something for our members. They were getting super fit, but we felt like we would be remiss if we didn't offer them some options for nutrition. And so we searched for a while and we found someone that we really trusted, and we partnered with Stacy.
Thanks, Sarah. My name is Stacy Haga. I have been a dietitian for several years. Like Jacqueline, I was sort of frustrated with some of the conventional nutritional wisdom out there, and didn't really want to practice because I felt like I didn't see the results with my clients when I was working with them using that food guide pyramid at the time. So I really didn't do a lot with nutrition. As a stay-at-home mom, I sort of tabled my nutrition career. And then one thing led to another, and now I have my own virtual practice, which means that I do most of my practice over the phone or via email. So I do cover a lot of this area, Northern Virginia included, DC Metro. So part of what I do is working with the HIIT Like a Girl program. I offer a group nutrition program for them, and it's really great because this is a kind of a first step to making some of the bigger changes that Jacqueline's talked about with going on a keto diet. We really focus on kicking the sugar. We really focus on macronutrients and doing higher fat, higher protein, lower carb, but we're not at a very low carb point yet because some people just aren't looking for that. But the first step is to kick the sugar. So we have our next group program starting in January, and we'll meet once a week for 30 minutes after one of the HIIT workouts. And it's just a really great opportunity to do that, to change your diet and to change your family's diet, which I have a whole couple of sessions on how to get the kids to eat what you fix so you're not a short order cook. And how to grocery shop. I mean, Costco, like I should be up here talking for Costco probably because everyone knows I was about to name my third child Kirkland. So I'm very grateful for Costco being in the Winchester area, having come from Northern Virginia where we had a ton of options. Costco is just great because it's all in one place and you have so many options. But that's, again, they're not paying me to say that. From my heart. But just real fast, I wanted to talk about the larger part of my business is that individual counseling. And I see a lot of people, what I would call refractory patients, people whose doctors have given up on them or they've given up on their doctors, people who have been successful with a keto diet or with a paleo or an autoimmune protocol, but they're just still having some unresolved symptoms of inflammation. And that's where I get a lot of people in my practice. I work with professional athletes who want to fine-tune their games and reduce inflammation and reduce recovery time, but I also work with people who just want to feel better. And so that is a large part of my business. I focus on food sensitivities and really identifying how you can eat a very specific keto diet that's right for you, or a very specific autoimmune diet that is right for you based on your individual needs and your individual food sensitivities and tolerances. So if you'd like to talk more about that, I will be outside, and I have a health assessment. It's real fast, but you can come stop by, do a health assessment with me, and we can talk more about you. Thanks so much, and thank you, Jacqueline, for this wonderful
Jimmy Moore, in case you weren't familiar with him, he catapulted onto the health scene in 2004 after a phenomenal 180-pound weight loss. Woo! It's amazing. So this enabled him to come off his prescription drugs for high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and respiratory problems. He is the co-author of Cholesterol Clarity. What the HDL is wrong with my numbers. Isn't that cute? The energetic personality behind the uber popular Live and Let Be Low Carb blog, and the host of one of the top ranked iTunes health podcasts, the Live and Let Be Low Carb Show. He has interviewed well over 900, that's a lot folks, 900 top health experts, and dedicated his life to helping people get the best information possible so that they can make the right decisions about their health. He lives with his wife Christine in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where they can often be found playing frisbee golf. I think one of the wait staff is a frisbee guru, right? Is he in here, Gary? Woo! He's known as the frisbee guy. So, in the front yard. And so, we're so very excited to have Jimmy here sharing his book, The Keto Clarity and the Ketogenic Cookbook, of which your rolls being passed around today are keto rolls. This is a keto meal with a keto dessert. So, surprise, the health revolution has a keto undertone. So, please welcome Jimmy Moore.
Thank you very much. So what's up, guys? This is kind of weird. I've never given a talk over dinner before. You guys are making me fast while you get to eat, so this is kind of funny. So I'm not talking about fasting today. For those of you that do follow my work, fasting is my next book. It was so funny because the last 2 books have all been about what to eat. And when I pitched to my publisher, she has a copy, The Complete Guide to Fasting. When I pitched to my publisher, I want my next big book to be not eating. You can imagine that discussion. So we obviously got them to do that because they did publish the books coming out October 18th. But I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story. Who has heard my story before? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you very much. No, so about half of you did not. So we'll share a little bit of my story. And then how many of you worry about your cholesterol at all in here? Raise your hand. Okay. It was so funny because it was like 3 went up real fast, but then the others kind of went, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but okay. So we're going to talk about cholesterol and things we've gotten all wrong about cholesterol, and then we'll finish the rest of the talk with about ketogenic diets, which a few of you have come up and said, I'm skeptical, so you better be good. I promise I'll be good. So let's talk about my story just for a moment. In 2004, that was me, and I was really bad shape. 410 pounds on those 3 prescription drugs that Jackie told you about. I was clearly not healthy. How did I get there? I got there because I ate stuff like this growing up. Anybody do the hamburger helper thing? It's so funny. I did this talk in Australia a few weeks back, and I put that up on the screen, and they're like, what is that? I said, you're not missing much. Please don't mess with it, but hamburger helper, and then of course like cereals like Fruit Loops. I had Blueberry Crunch and Count Chocula. You know, we all had that crap growing up. And then, of course, Coca-Cola, which by the time I reached my apex in my health and weight journey before finding what I found, I was drinking 16 cans of Coca-Cola a day. There's the gasp. I love that gasp every time I say that. And it's true. And I counted up the carbs I used to eat just from the liquid. It's really fast, gets up there. So if soda's your problem, cut them out now and you'll be thankful. This is what I like to refer to you guys as garbage. Anybody listens to my podcast, you know I call it crappy garbage because it's garbage carbs. Garbage. Someday that's going to be in the dictionary. So my mom in the 1980s, I was a child of the 80s, and any other Gen Xers in here? The few, the proud. So mom used to buy, and my mom was from the previous generation before Gen X, she bought into the fat-free lie, hook, line, and sinker. Anybody do that in the 1980s? I think most of us did. So my mom was buying fat-free ice cream. And then, anybody ever have those rice cakes before? My brother Kevin and I used to put peanut butter and jelly on it to see if it made it taste better. No, it did not. Fat-free dressings. She bought into the fat-free because of that. The food guide pyramid came out in the 1980s. Jackie told you a little bit about that earlier. And it was a disaster on us. And what did it do to our culture that had not been a part of our culture up until 1980? It made us Freaky Friday of fat. Anybody in the room, and I know at least one because she came up to me and said, I'm still scared of fat. Anybody still scared of fat in this room? Raise your hand. Thank you for your honesty. So again, it was, they're real fast. So we're scared of fat. Hopefully by the end of my talk today, you won't be. So this cartoon says, my low-fat diet really works. The fat hangs lower every day. So 1999 was a pivotal year in my health journey. I was still morbidly obese and unhealthy, but something happened to this gentleman. That man right there, his name is Kevin. He is my full-blooded brother, 4 years older than I am, and he had a series of 3 heart attacks in 1 week that nearly killed him at the age of 32. Now keep in mind, I'm 4 years behind him, and I was like, whoa, that woke me up that I needed to do something. He ended up having to have a defibrillator put in, and eventually by the time he turned 41, he was gone. And so that's why I'm so passionate about my work today, because I want to prevent the other Kevins of the world having to put up with 3 heart attacks at 32. But in 1999, this affected me pretty profoundly because all I knew at that point to get healthy was to cut my fat. Anybody felt that desperate that you're like, there's nothing else I can do? I know I have to cut my fat. So you cut your fat. And I basically in 1999 ate a no-fat diet. I had things like naturally fat-free marshmallows. It says it right there on the packaging. If you look at it, naturally fat-free. Or a low-fat food, Twizzlers. I had all those kinds of things. And I was very successful at losing weight. But I was what? Hungry all the time. And basically, Christine, my wife, will tell you, that was me in 1999. I was angry, and it's going to sound like I'm about to insult you, but I'm really not. We're all a bunch of fatheads. We are. And we're fatheads because our brains need fat. Did you know your noggin has 70% fat in it? So if you're not eating fat, guess how it lets you know that you're not having enough fat? It makes you moody. It gives you irritability. Some of you are that way anyway. But if you ate more fat, it would help with that. And that's what I was dealing with. So then 2000... Oh, let me backtrack just a second. So, 1999, Kevin. It went back too far, ain't they? Fast forward. So, no fat. And I basically got to the point where if that was the way I had to eat to be healthy, I didn't want to be healthy. I would rather be happy and eat whatever I want. That was my mentality. I felt like if I had to just cut fat to be healthy, it wasn't worth it to me. And can I tell you guys, that's a very dangerous place to be in. Anybody been there before where you just felt like you were so stuck that, well, if I have to suffer through another low-fat diet, I don't think I can live anymore on a low-fat diet, so I'll just eat whatever I want. And that's where I was after being successful losing weight on a low-fat diet but feeling horrible. I was at the point of, okay, I guess this is what I'm supposed to live with for the rest of my life. And I really did need fat. So then 2004 rolls around, and in 2004, and just prior to 2004, I had some interesting things happen to me in the fall of 2003. I was actually a substitute teacher in a high school, or actually it was a middle school this day, and I was writing the lesson on the board, and back there, whoever I'm pointing at, I'm sorry, you're that little chubby 6th grade kid. They said, "Man, Mr. Moore's really fat." Of course, the whole room starts laughing, and I turn around to laugh to keep from crying. And I was like, you know what? You're right, kid. I am. But then a series of events happened where I had an epiphany. That's what I can you have to explain it. It's not as funny, but so he gave me that line, and it has stuck with me for a very long time. And I was like, no, you're right. And then there was a rock climbing wall that they had at my church. They had like a little fall festival thing, and I was watching all these adults and kids go up and down it like Spider-Man, like it was nothing. And I thought, I can do that. And I couldn't. And I'm going, what in the world's going on? Getting in and out of cars and ripping pants. Big and tall pants are not cheap, like $90. And so I'm going, something's going on here. And I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. So this little lady became a part of this story in December of 2003. And she would give me diet books from time to time. And that woman is my mother-in-law, Christine's mom. Guess when she would give these to me? For Christmas. She had given me diet books every year for Christmas. One year I got Dr. Phil's diet book. Today can be a changing day in your life. And I'm like, no, Dr. Phil, it won't. It's still a low-fat diet. But this particular year, she gave me this book. And it totally revolutionized my life in more ways than I can even count here. Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. Anybody ever read that book? Raise your hand. Oh, raise it proud, raise it loud. If you have not, then all that Jackie's trying to teach you and all that you're hearing about here today, it doesn't have the proper context. He's the guy that kind of really made this popular. And of course, we all have like ketogenic as a shoot off of that, LCHF, dancing, all of those things. We have Dr. Atkins to thank for that. So definitely read that book. I think you can get it for a penny on Amazon. So worth getting that book. So I read that book from cover to cover between Christmas, when I got the present, to New Year's. And I thought, this guy is whacked out of his mind. Eat less carbs? What are you supposed to do for energy if you don't eat carbs? Eat more fat? He's a cardiologist, and he's telling people to eat the very thing that we know raises cholesterol, clogs your arteries, and gives you heart disease. He's out of his mind. But guess what, guys? Remember, I was in that period of desperation after the low-fat diet failure and feeling miserable. I thought, you know what? I've never done this before, and all those failures were the low-fat failures. It wasn't this. So what the heck? Let's give it a try. So January 1st, 2004, I went on a New Year's resolution to lose weight, but it turned into a new life resolution to get healthy. In fact, the Atkins diet became so popular on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, they asked the nutritional philosophy of the Atkins diet suggests restricting what? The girl got it wrong. She said protein. She doesn't realize she was close. You need to go back a little bit. But so, 2004, I lost 30 pounds the first month, 40 more pounds the second month when I had such energy. Anybody attest to that? When you start this, you're just like, I've got to go exercise. And so 100 pounds in 100 days, and by the end of that year, a total of 180 pounds. But that's what people like to look at. can I help frame this a little differently for you? Although that's what I'm famous for, and I've obviously put back on a little bit of that weight since then, this is what I'm most proud of. I came off of all those drugs I was taking at the time, and I'm living a healthier life today than I ever could have imagined. I feel like I would be dead today had I not made the change, just like my brother. And so sometimes we get upset because the scale's not moving. Take a sledgehammer to that bad boy, because it's a lying liar that lies, and pay attention to your health. And I know you track markers, and we're going to talk about some of those markers here in a minute. Those are so much more important in your pursuit of health. Don't let the scale discourage you from seeing results that you're already seeing. All right, I'm off my soapbox. So all of this started a health journey for me. I began blogging at Living La Vida Low Carb blog, and then 2005, yes, I was a Ricky Martin fan. So then 1 year later, this guy comes to me and says, hey, you should be a podcaster. In 2006, I was like, what the heck is a podcast? He said, oh, you just kind of get on like a radio show and you just rant. Well, I can rant. So I started ranting for about 50 episodes. We called it the Living La Vida Low Carb Show, and then it turned into an interview-based show, which it's been since about episode 70 or whatever. And now it's the longest-running health podcast on the internet. You mentioned in my bio from Keto Clarity, what did you say, 900 episodes. It's almost 1,200 now. Now, how many listen to the show? The rest of you have 1,200 episodes to get caught up on, so good luck. You're going to be busy a while. But it's a labor of love for me, because I feel like I've been given this incredible gift to be able to articulate all of this information. And with all these people I've had on my show, I kind of feel like I have some honorary PhDs that, I'm trying to impart knowledge. And so I became like a sponge, soaking up literally every bit of health information I could as it related to nutrition. And it got me interested in several topics. A couple of which I have books here today about. One I'm not going to talk to you about today, but the F word, as we call it, the other F word, fasting. So I won't talk to you about that because that's a little more advanced. But let's talk about things we've gotten wrong with cholesterol. So a few of you lifted your hands reluctantly that you still worry about your cholesterol. So let's look at 12 things we've gotten all wrong about cholesterol. There is the book I wrote about it in 2013. And by the way, that subtitle, What the HDL is Wrong with My Numbers, I was talking to a guy in my church. I said, I'm looking for a subtitle. It's Cholesterol Clarity, trying to explain cholesterol and why it's not the thing. He said, yeah, What the HDL is Wrong with My Numbers. And I went, don't tell the pastor, we're using that. So high cholesterol. How many of you at some point in your life worried about high cholesterol? Raise your hand. Why did you worry about it? Because your doctor told you needed to, right? That's why you did. And so we've all been obsessed. How many of you know what your cholesterol number is? Raise your hand. Again, the reason you know it is because you were told it was something of importance. I'm arguing it's not something of importance at all. And I'm going to explain. So here are the 12 things we got wrong about cholesterol. Number one, we think LDL-C and total cholesterol matter the most. So a lot of times your doctor will get your cholesterol test results, and he'll see just the total and just the LDL-C and say, oh, well, based on that, you have a statin drug deficiency, meaning he wants you to take a statin drug. But he's not really paying attention to other relevant markers. And the thing he's not telling you about LDL-C, did you know that's just a calculated number? It's not directly measured. How many of you knew that LDL-C was just calculated? Raise your hand. Just a few of you. It is actually not directly measured, partially because they're trying to save money. And the other reason that they do that is they use this equation that in the context of the other numbers also being a little off kilter, it shows your LDL-C off kilter. But what happens is if you eat a low carb diet and you lower your triglycerides as predicted and you raise your HDL cholesterol as predicted, then the LDL-C equation miscalculates your LDL. So it shows you have this high LDL, which then, guess what? That also raises your total cholesterol, and they're putting people on medications for no good reason at all. And plus, the total cholesterol being 200, that's what they say is like the normal and healthy. What, are you suddenly at great risk for heart disease if you're at 201 and less risk for heart disease at 199? Does that make any sense at all? What about this one, number 2? They all but ignore HDL cholesterol and triglycerides. So how many of you know your triglycerides and your HDL? A few of you. After today, you're going to test it and at least know what those numbers are. Because this is what research nowadays is saying is the proper way to look at heart health. Triglyceride to HDL ratio. Basically, you take your triglycerides, which mine are currently right around 55, and your HDL, which mine is about 75. That's totally well under 1 ratio. You're looking for a ratio definitely under 3 and ideally under 1. But does the doctor ever talk about HDL? He might say, oh, that's the good cholesterol, but he never does anything with it. And then triglycerides, they're like, oh, okay, it's just another blood fat. No, it's not just another blood fat. It's the blood fat that goes up when you eat ding, 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 carbohydrates. So if you don't want to raise your trigs, you got to lower the carbs. And they don't talk about that because they know that. Number 3, they fail to understand varying LDL subparticles. So who in here has had a particle size test done of some sort? The NMR lipoprofile, the VAP, any of these kind of tests. So a few of you raise your hands. So what it's looking for is LDL isn't just one number. It's actually a multiplicity of numbers. As you can see, they're varying sizes. But we generally break them down from large, fluffy to small, dense kind of LDL. And so doctors don't really give a lot of credence to this, that the large fluffy is actually not atherogenic at all, and it's the small, dense, BB-sized ones that's extremely atherogenic. So there's a good LDL and a bad LDL. Have you ever heard that before? Probably not. And so you get this test done, and guess what? Guess what makes large, fluffy, beautiful LDL particles? Eating low carb and high fat. That makes the large fluffy. When you eat a lot of carbs and you're spiking your triglycerides and you're spiking your blood sugar and your insulin levels, guess what? You're going to be stuck with those small, dense LDL particles and make you more at risk for a heart attack, even if your LDL-C is lower. Starting to get this a little bit, you guys? Number 4, we assume that 100 LDL-C or the 200 total automatically needs a statin drug. So one of the experts that I quoted in Cholesterol Clarity is a gentleman in Australia. He's a pathologist, and Ken Sakaris is his name. And he said the 200 is unlike any number in any other scientific realm or even health realm. It actually, most of those health tests, they look at percentiles. So they put you on like the 75th percentile and higher for being at risk for disease. Guess where they came up with 200? It's exactly at the 50 percentile. So in other words, half the population is on one side, half the population is on the other. Are you really at risk if you're like 220, 240, and you're still within that 50 to 75 range? Are y'all following the numbers a little bit? No, you're not. And yet that's the only number we ever really do that with, because guess what? Now they have 29 billion reasons to do that, by the way, and they're called the amount of money made in profits on the statin drugs. Does that mean nobody needs a statin? Don't hear me and say, well, nobody needs a statin. Jimmy Moore said so. No, some people do have various health conditions, but it's never been tested on women, ever. So if you're a woman taking a statin drug, it's never been tested on you. And it's never been tested on a man who hasn't already had some kind of a cardiovascular event. So buyer beware, they're putting you possibly on a drug that you don't need. So talk to your doctor about that. Definitely get them a copy of Cholesterol Clarity. Number 5, these are mistakes we made with cholesterol. We say low fat, low cholesterol is heart healthy. Anybody else, so obsessed with looking at labels and claims on packages? I do. I walk through, especially like the cereal aisle. Cheerios will lower your cholesterol by 7.4%. Woo! They do that all based on the low fat lie, as I call it. And cutting your fat and cutting your cholesterol in your diet does not mean heart healthy. I would think anything that keeps blood sugar and insulin levels low and inflammation levels low, which we'll get to that I word here in a minute, is what you're looking for. Number 6, you underestimate the effects of carbs and vegetable oils. So most of you in this room kind of get the carbs thing, but did you know these vegetable oils like Mazola and Crisco and canola oil and all these kind of oils are extremely unhealthy for your heart? Why? Because they will oxidize the LDL. So how many of you cook in like canola oil or corn oil because you thought it was healthy, and especially because the American Heart Association has that little heart health symbol on it? That tells me what products not to buy, by the way. When I see that, I know not to buy those products. And so vegetable oils are bad news. But the reason they're promoted by dietitians and healthcare providers is because they do one thing on your cholesterol panel really, really well. They lower the LDL-C. But what's it doing? Remember the particle size I was telling you about, the large fluffy and the small dense? It's eliminating those large fluffy, leaving behind the small dense kind, which are the truly atherogenic, and then they give you a bonus. They're oxidizing them, they're rusting them, and making them even faster to cause heart disease in you. So they're bad news. So carbs, I hope you got by now, but vegetable oils is another part of that. And guess what? Vegetable oils are in a lot of things that maybe you're eating right now. Mayonnaise, salad dressings. Read your labels and start making your own ketogenic cookbook. We have lots of recipes for making your own mayonnaise and salad dressings. Number 7, you believe low cholesterol levels are the optimal state. There's that Cheerios package I was telling you about. And so people think, remember when Jay Leno was hosting the Tonight Show and he'd go out on the street, hey, what do you think the perfect level of cholesterol would be? Do you know there would be some people that would say 0? They would, because we've been so fearful of making our cholesterol be high that we've swung to the opposite direction, and now too low a cholesterol becomes a problem. Did you know that when you go below 140 in your total cholesterol, you start messing with your brain? It starts causing mood issues, and this is documented, you guys. And guess what? People think that they're protecting themselves against having a heart attack, having that low of a cholesterol. Remember Meet the Press, Tim Russert? Remember that guy? And so he actually had a heart attack at the age of 54. His first heart attack, and he died from the first heart attack. Want to guess what his total cholesterol was? It was 105. 105. So if high cholesterol is the reason that heart attacks happen, how did that happen to Tim Russert? Well, I know how it happened. He had extraordinarily high calcium scores, and we'll talk about that here in a second. He had extraordinarily high inflammation, and he was taking a statin drug to try to lower it, and the statin did its job. It lowered it, but it didn't save his life. Number 8, and I've heard this one too many times because I've always had high cholesterol, but not genetically. Doctors automatically assume that your high cholesterol is just genetic. So there's a real expensive test you can run from this company called Ambry Genetics to test to see if you have this thing called familial hypercholesterolemia. So if you have that, then you will have higher levels of cholesterol. But sometimes you're just an overproducer of cholesterol for whatever reason. They call it hyper-responder, especially when you start on a low-carb, high-fat diet. Some people's cholesterol does go up. But again, the relevant ones don't. Triglycerides come down, HDL goes up, and the small dense LDL particles come down. And so doctors look at it and say, well, you have high cholesterol, and I even see it on the reports, and maybe you've seen it. Patient exhibits signs that they could have familial hypercholesterolemia. Well, I had the test run $1,400 later, and I had like a 5% chance that I had it, which is basically none. Number 9, doctors don't have a clue about cholesterol levels and why they're high. They don't. We have a few doctors in the room. Can you attest to that, the doctors in the room, that sometimes you just don't know? Well, some of the doctors in this room do know why, but most in the mainstream medical profession do not. And so what do? They're just like, well, I don't know what to do about it. Let's throw a drug at it. But they don't realize that maybe you've got an infection in your teeth. Did you know an infection in your teeth can artificially raise your cholesterol levels? I actually had major root canals and various mouth stuff that I had to get taken care of. in 2013 when I was writing this book, and I mentioned that I think that's why my cholesterol was a little bit higher. I had major infections where I chewed hard candy growing up and left it in there. Anybody done that? So don't do that. And I did that, and it was raising my cholesterol level. So I got all of that fixed with a holistic dentist. I got the mercury amalgams taken out, and do you know, in 1 year, with no other changes in my lifestyle or diet, it dropped 100 points, my cholesterol. So I was pushing 400, and it got it down to 300, just with doing that. So there's more, and how many doctors say, well, go see your dentist to make sure you have no problems there? No! They're like, take this drug, and everything will be okay, I hope. That's the way it is. Number 10, totally missing the role and causes of inflammation. So how many of you know your inflammatory markers? Do you have those run and kind of know things like HSCRP or homocysteine or IGF-1? Do you know any of those kind of markers? I'm not seeing a hand. Y'all might be really starving. Somebody else can answer. But I see no hands. Test to see inflammation, because guess what? Here's the take-home message on the cholesterol part of the talk, you guys. It's not about cholesterol. It's about the inflammation. Because without inflammation, there is no disease happening without inflammation. So test. HSCRP is a really good one. Pretty much any doctor can have that one run. Might be like $50 if you don't have health insurance. But your doctor can run it, and it will tell you your level of inflammation. And you definitely want to be under 3 for that, ideally under 1 optimally, but get that tested so you know where you stand. Number 11, dismissing the role of blood sugar and insulin. You know, within the context of cholesterol, does your doctor ever talk about blood sugar? Ever talk about insulin? No, because he knows the thing that's stoking those things is, I'm sensing a theme here, carbohydrates. And so you got to realize that all of this is connected. If you have diabetes, you have great risk for heart disease. If you have heart disease, you already have diabetes, or you have a great propensity for it. So know that these are related, and when you know that, that's what makes doing low carb, high fat, ketogenic so necessary. And then finally, number 12, demonizing cholesterol and never saying why it's good. Have you ever heard anybody say, oh yeah, cholesterol's good? No, we kind of treat it like Hitler, unfortunately. You know, there's this negative image, and you can't possibly think that maybe Hitler was a great piano player or something. That's a bad example, but I'm trying to give you an idea of something that you vilify in your head, and you can't see anything that's good about it. There are lots of good things about cholesterol. Without it, you would die, number 1. That zero that Jay Leno, and yeah, that would not be good. And so there's so many good parts of it. We list them all in Cholesterol Clarity, and that's that book. But let's get into keto. So how many of you have tinkered with nutritional ketosis in here? Raise your hand. Great. How many of you are interested, but you're kind of skeptical? Raise your hand. Okay, good. You're the people I'm talking to mostly today. So Keto Clarity was the book I wrote in 2014. And what's interesting was my publisher, when they were asking me to write books for them in 2012, what do you want to write about? 2012, I said, ketogenic diets. It was right off the bat. I'm like, well, that's kind of a niche. Nobody really cares about that. And you got anything else? I went, really? We're just going to dismiss? Okay, so then that's when I pitched cholesterol, and it did really well for me. And they said, or after that one did pretty well, I said, can I please write the keto book, this book? And they said, okay, we still don't think it's going to do very well. You know, in the first week that this came out, it sold more copies than Cholesterol Clarity did the whole first year. Needless to say, they became quick fans of ketogenic diets and gave me a cookbook as a follow-up. So we've got a lot of things wrong about ketosis, and as you can see, the trend line with ketogenic, that's that top line there, is a lot more sharp than low carb now. Because see, low carb can mean anything. Low carb can mean low carb, low fat. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. Low carb could be low carb, high protein. That's a recipe for disaster. So ketogenic adds the added component of low carb, moderate protein, and high fat. And so we're seeing a great trend. This is something a lot of people are interested in. I'm hoping that maybe my book's helped with that. So let's look at some of these things that we've gotten all wrong about ketosis. Number one, we think ketosis is an unhealthy, dangerous state. Who in here believes that? Great. Nobody. I'll move along. Just kidding. So here's the spectrum of diabetes. So we've got all of these people that are type 2, about 90% of the population. Who in here is type 2? Anybody? Okay. And then we have about 10% of the population is type 1. So who in here is type 1? Anybody? So if you're a type 1 and you have this as your meal, and this, and not the keto bread. By the way, that keto bread, kudos to the chef. Oh my gosh. I'm sending that to Maria, my co-author on the Ketogenic Cookbook, because that was the bomb diggity. Be sure you put some butter on top of that. That was awesome. So, a type 1 doing this kind of a meal, and then they're like, I'm going to skip my insulin today. What would happen to that diabetic? Number one, their blood sugar would go extraordinarily high, probably in excess of 240 milligrams per deciliter. But then their ketones would also go extraordinarily high, 20 plus millimolar on the blood ketones. That creates an acidic state in the body, and that patient would go into a coma and quite possibly die if they didn't get insulin and electrolytes and a few other things as soon as possible. That's called diabetic ketoacidosis. Now, whenever you talk ketosis in the mainstream world, that's what a medical professional thinks is ketosis. That's their idea of ketosis. But this diabetic ketoacidosis thing can't possibly happen if you make even a little bit of insulin, which is everybody in this room right now. It's next to medically impossible for you to have diabetic ketoacidosis. And even if that type 1 diabetic who makes no insulin, try to do that, ketoacidosis doesn't happen when they're eating low carb. Instead of the spaghetti, they would have spaghetti squash or zoodles, zucchini noodles. They would have been gold in that and then have the keto bread instead. It wouldn't happen. So if they had eaten a meal like this, steak and vegetables with some butter, they would have had blood sugar steady around 80 to 100. They would have blood ketones probably around 1 to 3. And they would have no presence of any kind of acidosis in the blood at all. So this whole idea of ketosis being dangerous, that's ignorance. That's not realizing that there is a difference between ketosis and ketoacidosis. You got it? 2 of you did. Number 2, getting into ketosis will zap you of energy, the so-called keto flu. Do I look like I'm not energetic today? Yeah. It just doesn't happen. You get lots of energy. Now, some people complain about the keto flu. Anybody start ketogenic and you're just like lethargic and just, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever? You probably weren't told to balance your electrolytes. Well, how do you do that? Water. You got to drink copious amounts of water, because keep in mind, when you're shifting from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner, guess where all the sugar is stored? In your muscles, in water. So you'll find you have to go to the bathroom a lot when you first start on a ketogenic diet, and you have to replenish that water that's being dumped out of your system. Number 2, sea salt with bone broth is gold. Anybody drink bone broth in here? Oh, guys, you don't know what you're missing not eating bone broth. But the most important reason why you would do the bone broth, not just for the good nutrients that are in it, but for the salt. Because again, when you start a ketogenic diet, you're going to dump a lot of salt early, so you got to replenish that salt. Number 3, potassium. So traditionally, when you talk about potassium, people are like, oh, eat a banana. Sorry, that's 29 grams of carbohydrate. Divide that by 4, that's over 7 teaspoons of sugar. No, thank you. That doesn't work on ketogenic. But guess what has twice as much potassium as a banana? Wait for it. Avocado. Twice as much, and yet incredibly healthy fats. And then lastly, magnesium. If you take magnesium an hour before bedtime, you'll sleep like a baby. Those 4 things will make that keto flu go away, and you won't feel the effects of that low lethargic energy that they supposedly have. Number 3, a ketogenic diet will increase the risk of heart disease. We just did a whole talk about this, so I won't belabor the point, but basically it does all of these things that we just talked about in my previous talk. So number 4, simply eating low carb will put you into ketosis. How many believe that? If you just cut your carbs, oh, I'm ketogenic. Did you believe that? Oh, come on. I did. I believed that. Did you believe that, Jackie, at some point? That maybe you just cut your carbs and get you into ketosis. So here's an acronym. Please feel free to take a screenshot of that if you have your phone available. This is an acronym we put in Keto Clarity that will help you remember this is your goal with going keto. Number 1, you keep your carbs low. 2, you eat more fat. 3, test ketones often. 4, overdoing protein is bad. And so if you do those 4 things, you'll be ketogenic. Number 5, neglecting the key role of moderating protein intake. How many of you have gone to a steakhouse and you've gotten like a 20-ounce steak, 16-ounce steak? For you ladies, maybe a 12-ounce steak. If you're going for broke. Did you know that's a lot of protein? And did you know that that has a negative effect on your body? Here's the reason it has a negative effect, and there will be a quiz at the end of the thing. So, how many people besides Dr. Cucuzella can tell me what this process is? Wow, you guys are nerds too, man. That's awesome. Gluconeogenesis. So basically, and you heard a little bit of it earlier when Jackie talked, think of the word this way. Neo, new, genesis, beginning, and gluco, sugar. So it's a new way to make sugar in the body. And so people don't think about sugar in the body coming from anywhere, but sugar, and maybe if you're a little bit advanced, carbohydrates. Most people don't think about it coming from protein. And so it actually occurs in the liver, and if you go over the body's need for protein, it has to convert it because there's no storage mechanism for protein in your body. So it's got to convert it into some form of energy, which can then be used as fuel and then stored. Well, guess what happens to glucose when it's not used as fuel? It's stored as body fat. Grumpy Cat says he needs carbs, but he really doesn't have to eat them to get them. Did you know that you need fat? There are essential fats. You have to have fat or you will die. You need protein, even the small amounts that we're talking about here. You need an obligate amount of protein or you will die. Guess what about carbs? Do you need carbs? You can't eat another carb for the rest of your life. Will you die? Well, unless you die tomorrow because you didn't eat carbs. But will you live a long and healthy life if you never ate any carbs again? Yes, you would, because gluconeogenesis would make sure of that. The body is a very complex organism that will keep you alive as long as you give it the basic tools that it needs. Fat and protein, from the dietary perspective, are all that you need. Number 6, testing for the presence of ketones only in the urine. So how many of you test just urine ketones when you test for ketosis? Raise your hand. Anybody else test blood or breath? Okay. Hopefully you'll see why those are going to be better options for you. So here's a little ketones 101, a little bit of nerdiness for you. The ketone that is in the urine is called acetoacetate. There will be a quiz on this one at the end. Just kidding. The one in the blood is called beta-hydroxybutyrate, and the one in the breath is acetone. And so here's what happens to urine ketones and why urine is unreliable. So basically, you see urine ketones when you start kind of a low-carb diet. You start to see them on there. And then you start to become keto-adapted. This can take somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks if you're already pretty darn low-carb. You come from like paleo or a clean eating that's pretty low-carb already. Or upwards of 4 to 8 weeks if you come from like Jimmy Moore's Standard American Diet circa 2004. It takes a long time. But once you're keto-adapted, guess what happens to the urine ketones? They get converted into blood ketones, and when that happens, look what happens to the urine ketones. They're gone. So what's happened is the acetoacetate has now converted into a usable form of energy, beta-hydroxybutyrate, in the blood. Now, does it happen to everybody? No. So if you're still peeing on that stick 5 months later and you're like, Jimmy Moore's stupid because I'm still peeing. You will possibly. In fact, I do. I still show urine ketones, breath, and blood when I am in ketosis. But some people lose them, and that makes them freak out. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have to cut my carbs more. I have to moderate protein more. I just need to eat more butter. What do I do? And they're probably doing everything right because they're having all the physical effects of this. So don't let the obsession about testing mess with the success that you'll see. You can almost feel when you're doing this well, but if you truly want to test and see how well you're doing, the gold standard is going to be blood all day, every day. The name of the meter is called Precision Extra. It's pretty expensive, and there's ways to find cheaper strips and things online. There's also this breath meter called Ketonix, Ketonix, if you want to test your breath, and it's a pretty good proxy for the blood. But ditch the urine ketones. Number 7, limiting grains, fruits, and vegetables will deprive you of nutrients. I've heard this from one too many registered dietitians that I just want to go, shut up. Grains, let's deal with grains first. They contain phytic acid, which prevent the absorption of key micronutrients like copper, magnesium, iron, zinc, and calcium. And we've really only been eating them in the whole spectrum of human history for a very short period of time. And so it's very difficult to try to consume grains. Have you ever tried to eat a whole grain? You would break your teeth if you tried to eat a whole grain. So most of even the so-called whole grain breads that are out there, they're highly processed, you guys. So it's a ruse to think that whole grains are really healthy. How about fruits and vegetables? This is a little bit controversial one. Low starch and low sugar ones are obviously the best. And according to a 2006 American Diabetes Association survey, 36% of U.S. adults and 56% of children in America had their vegetable consumption in the form of potatoes, mostly fried. Gee, what could that be? McDonald's. And by the way, a potato is not a vegetable. It's a tuber. As for fruit, bananas, as I mentioned earlier, have 29 grams of carbohydrates. And one of the things we put in Keto Clarity was fruit is nature's candy. You have to treat it as such. It really is. Does that mean you should never eat fruit ever? I still love berries. I love strawberries and blueberries. I just know with my insulin resistance, I can't have it probably as often as Christine can have it. And she makes me make her a little dessert with almond butter and
Love you, honey.
Yeah. So here's ketogenic nutrition in a nutshell. So if you're wanting to try this, don't eat grains, don't eat sugar, don't eat starch. Sounds easy, right? Y'all aren't very enthusiastic. Eat mostly whole foods like eggs, meats, nuts, high-fat dairy if you can tolerate dairy, and non-starchy vegetables. Plenty of fat-soluble vitamins, because when you're eating fat, you want to have the vitamins that go along with that. And did you know the low-fat people that eat all these vitamins, oh, I'm so healthy, if they're eating fat-soluble vitamins and they're not eating fat, are they absorbing it? No. And that's why they go crazy on the internet. And then finally, if you can consume more than just the muscle meat, if you do organ meat, because sometimes people say, well, where do you get your nutrients from if you're not having as many fruits and vegetables in your diet? Organ meat is amazing. Who has eaten organ meat in here? I know, I heard some. But it's amazing. Kidney, liver, beef heart. I've even had beef tongue. I made that one time, and somebody said it'll lick you back. It's amazing, actually, you guys. And think about it this way. Did our ancestors worry about, ooh, that's a tongue? No, they ate it because it was food. And they ate it proudly. And brain is really healthy for you. Very fatty. So I attended a ancestral health conference back in 2000, what was it, Christine, 11 at UCLA. And one of the presenters had this nutrient density score where you can't see the very bottom, but the very bottom has processed foods, grains, refined oils, those vegetables I was telling you about. But look at the top. This is the nutrient dense foods. The top is organ meats and oils. Whoever said ooh, there you go, neener. Herbs and spices, nuts and seeds, cacao, fish and seafood, pork, beef, eggs. What does that sound like? Sounds like a pretty darn good ketogenic diet if you ask me. Number 8, eating low carb, high fat leads to hypothyroidism. Who's heard this nonsense before? Yeah, so it's been out there for a little while, but here is the truth. None of the medical practitioners I've ever interviewed on my podcast or for books have ever seen this as a common problem. They're using ketogenic with patients on a daily basis. In fact, my Thursday podcast is called Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore and the Doc. Anybody listen to that? We have a lot of fun on that show, and we answer a lot of questions about ketogenic diets on there, and he's seen well over 10,000 patients. Never has seen this issue as a common issue. And lower thyroid number, so-called hypothyroidism, is not necessarily a lower function. One of my experts in keto clarity was Dr. Ron Rosedale, and he said it often means it's better function. It doesn't have to work as hard because you're not feeding it the very thing that is making it exacerbated. So it's very easy to undereat on keto, and guess what? When you undereat, that messes with your thyroid. And so make sure you're having plenty of calories when you're eating a ketogenic diet so that you don't lead to this hypothyroidism. And then who's to say that the normal lab levels for thyroid are optimal, and perhaps going ketogenic gets you to the true normal? You know, and one of these days I'm going to write a book that has all the ranges that doctors say are the normal range and the real ranges of what should be healthy, because it's different. You know, they tell you your triglycerides are supposed to be between 0 and 150. 150 is kind of, but get it under 100, and that's a lot more realistic. So maybe we're changing the game a little bit and realize that a lot of those tests are predicated on sick people coming in to see their doctor. Does that mean it's optimal? No. The fact is the thyroid doesn't have to work as hard when it's fueled by ketones, and despite the lower numbers, you're asymptomatic of any hypothyroidism. Christine actually has Hashimoto's, so we know this. And there's no need to consume any of the so-called safe starches. Maybe you've heard that phrase online. White rice and white potatoes are safe. No, they're not. Even people who consume high-carb diets can have hypothyroidism. So if it's an issue of low carb causing it, how does that happen? And most of these hypothyroid, like my wife Christine having Hashimoto's, are autoimmune. And so they can actually be made worse when you consume starches and sugars. In January 2014, there was a BBC news story that found European hunter-gatherers 7,000 years ago were unable to digest starch at all. So is this really an essential part of our diet, that you have to have starch to avoid thyroid problems? Yeah, I think you know the answer. Number 9, your brain needs glucose to function well. We're almost done, you guys. So you've probably heard this one before. How do you make your brain function if you don't eat carbohydrates? You know, we've heard 130 grams is what a lot of dietitians say. Well, the reason they say that is if you're going to be a sugar burner, you do need 130 grams worth of carbohydrates to fuel it as a sugar burner. But guess what? There's another way. This is what the nosy dietitians say. The assumption is that your brain can only function on glucose as the fuel source, but your brain loves running on ketones as well. So how many of you know confidently right now your brain is rocking and rolling on the fat and ketones? Raise your hand. Because it's so easy to get there and feel the effects. You never want to go back to that old way again. Like my colleague back there said earlier, once you drive that BMW, you don't want to go back to that clunky. It's the same with the ketones in the brain. If I didn't do ketosis for any other reasons but the brain health, that's why I would do it, just for the cognitive. So what happens to your brain during ketosis? Stable mood, decreased sense of anxiety. Who wants that? Who doesn't want that, right? Mental sharpness, feeling of happiness, a general sense of well-being. All of that happens when you go into a state of ketosis because those ketones are fueling your brain. Number 10, a ketogenic diet cuts calories for weight loss. And they say it like it's a bad thing. Oh, the only reason ketosis works is because it cuts calories. Aren't you trying to get me to cut calories? Isn't that the whole, I can do it naturally? So riddle me this, Batman. We have powerful appetite-suppressing drugs, right? But did you also know we have powerful appetite-suppressing foods? And that pork belly and butter looks really good right about now. So why do we think that is better than that? Number 11. Our ancestors didn't live in a constant state of ketosis. You can't see the last one on there. I've seen this. If you go online, you can find this. But after the obese gentleman, there's a hunter-gatherer going, "Stop! We F things up!" Making them go back. So our ancestors didn't live in a constant state of ketosis, which is true. But what did our early human ancestors eat? Let's take a look. They had things like fish, and meat, and eggs, vegetables, nuts and seeds. What else did they have, though? What else could they possibly have had? Ketones, right? And so Dr. Bill Wilson notes in Keto Clarity, humans used both glucose and ketone bodies for energy back in the day. And during those periods of food shortage or after a big animal kill, guess what sustained our early ancestors? And it's at this point I feel like I'm in a church, and the answer is Jesus. It's always Jesus is the answer. It's ketones. That's the obvious answer. So here's a few final thoughts from Dr. Wilson. Our ancestors spent most of their time in a state of ketosis. If our early ancestors hadn't developed a way to use ketones for energy, our species would have ended up on Darwin's short list eons ago. So this is the Inuit Eskimos, and they are probably considered the first ketogenic society. They were an Arctic environment. Can you grow much in an Arctic environment? No. They ate very low carb, very high fat. Their high fat was like whale blubber and seal blubber and that kind of thing. But they were totally energetic, full of stamina, first really major people group to get fully keto adapted. Number 12, the last one, athletes cannot perform well in ketosis. And I know there's a few athletes in here who believes, if you're an athlete, you probably shouldn't do this because it's going to be detrimental to your performance. Raise your hand. And they're like, "Oh, he's at the end. I better not raise my hand." I'm gonna look for the people that have like cuts in their pants from holding them. So athletes. So not these athletes. Load up on the carbs. And what was the other part? So why are fat and ketones to fuel exercise better? So I asked a ketogenic athlete named Ben Greenfield. Anybody heard of Ben's work before? Yeah, he's awesome. For Keto Clarity. And he said, number one, they give you metabolic superiority with the fat for fuel. You get mental enhancement, as we were just talking about. And you get greater health and longevity from controlled blood sugars. A lot of these athletes are killing their bodies in the pursuit of performance, so that when they are done with their performance, they drop dead at 54. They drop dead at 49. And they're not taking care of their health. Ben wants performance, but he also wants long-term health. So that's what he sees that ketones does for him. So for athletes, ketones are the preferred fuel source for the muscles, heart, liver, and brain. And none of these vital organs can handle carbohydrate very well. And they actually will get damaged when you consume too many carbohydrates. So athletes can consume a few more carbs and protein than probably us mere mortals. But they know that they have to even keep them down to their performance level. You have to find that right mix. I'm here to tell you, people often ask me, well, what's the right macronutrient ratio and how many carbs? Don't hurt your brain like that, because it ain't going to be the same from person to person. In Keto Clarity, we kind of tell you how to find your carb tolerance, how to find your protein threshold, when to listen to your body for satiety, that you're full enough with fat. All of those things are going to be on an individualized basis. Exercise itself can raise the ketone levels, by the way. So if you exercise, don't test ketones right after doing the exercise, because you'll be greatly disappointed. Your blood sugar will be highly elevated. Your blood ketones will kind of be in the pot. But if you wait a couple of hours and you don't eat, and you wait a couple of hours, then you'll see your blood sugar comes back to normal again, and your blood ketones actually get a boost. And then you have lower inflammation from the ketogenic diet, which it is an anti-inflammatory diet. That is what enables them to have quicker recovery. And then finally, ketone bodies are actually known as a superfuel within athletic circles. So those are my 3 books, Cholesterol Clarity, Keto Clarity, and the Ketogenic Cookbook. I have a new book on fasting coming out October 18th. I didn't want to blow you away with that information because that's a little more advanced. But liveinlapidolowcarb.com has all my podcasts and everything, and thank you guys very much.
So this is a beautiful plaque that one of our sponsors, Crown Trophy, you'll see them on the back of your program. This says to Jimmy Moore, in appreciation for your time and your support. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.